Hello, and welcome to video 1 of what stress actually is. I'm Claire Louise Mortimer, and I'm a clinical hypnotherapy practitioner. Now, you may have heard the phrase nervous system regulation quite a lot recently. It's often talked about as if it's something that we need to learn how to do. But in reality, it's describing something that your body's already doing or struggling to do every day. And to understand it properly, we need to start with what stress actually is. And if I asked you to define stress, you'd probably struggle. But if I asked you to imagine something stressful and tell me how you feel, you'd probably be able to tell me that it felt quite uncomfortable. And that's because what we usually describe as stress is the feeling that comes with it. But stress itself is slightly differently. Stress, if you want to boil it down to something simple, is purely demand. And life places demand on us all the time. The demand of staying alive, the demand of work, the demand of other people's expectations, the demand we place on ourselves for the life we are trying to build. And without those demands, nothing would happen. You wouldn't get up in the morning. You wouldn't meet deadlines. You wouldn't push yourself to learn or achieve anything. Stress, in the right amount, is actually what motivates us. The problem isn't demand. The problem is our capacity to meet it. And capacity is the energy and resources that we have available to meet those demands. The demands placed on us, and that's sleep, recovery, emotional resilience, even our physical energy. And when capacity is strong, we can manage a lot of demand. Sometimes it's even energizing. But when capacity drops, then the same demands can suddenly feel overwhelming. Nothing about the demand itself has changed. The system trying to deal with it has. I mean, have you ever noticed how one day you can deal with everything that's thrown at you, and then another day, that same list feels absolutely impossible? That's not weakness, that's your capacity. What people are calling nervous system regulation is simply whether your system is able to reset after demand. And we have what should be a reset every day. Our human system is designed to deal with an awful lot, because at the end of the day, whilst we sleep, we should reset. Sleep isn't just switching off. During sleep, our brain goes through everything that we haven't generalized and deleted during the day. And it sorts through everything that's happened during the day, and the important information gets filed away, and unimportant information, well, we discard it. And basically, we empty the bin at the end of the day. It's a bit like clearing your desk at the end of the day so that you can come back tomorrow morning with a clean desk, a clean workspace. But have you ever woken up feeling like you've never really switched off, like your brain was running all night? And that's usually the first sign that your system hasn't properly reset. If sleep works properly, most of the pressure from the day gets processed overnight, and you wake up with a clear desk and what I call an empty stress bucket. I like to explain our capacity to manage what people call stress in the form of a bucket, a stress bucket. Everyone is born with a bucket, and during the day we fill it. Things get added to it. Work pressure, decisions, deadlines. Kids have it at school. You grow up with it. You learn how to manage it. And the general demands of getting through the day normally reset overnight. You fill it during the day, it empties while you're asleep, and hopefully you start the next day with an empty bucket. But when demand consistently exceeds capacity, things start to change. And one of three things normally happens. First thing, your bucket overloads. It overflows. And when that happens, you normally see short-term emotional or behavioural changes. People get snappy, they feel overwhelmed, they become anxious or irritable. And that's normally short-term because the system eventually resets. And those behaviours are usually temporary. The next thing that often happens professionally is someone gives you a bigger bucket. And this is where professional training, coping strategies, and organisation or productivity systems come in. You learn better timekeeping, time management, better organisation, better prioritisation. In other words, you learn how to carry more load. And then sometimes you upgrade the bucket several times as you learn to balance that weight and carry more pressures. And that too will work for a while. But there's a third possibility, the bucket that never empties. Instead of starting the next day with an empty bucket, you start the day with previous stuff still in there. It's a bit like carrying a bucket with a bit of water in the bottom. And that's usually when people start saying, I don't know what's wrong with me. I used to cope with this. And this is when the system stops resetting. And one of the biggest reasons for this is because your sleep pattern starts to change. Instead of getting enough deep restorative sleep, you spend more and more time in REM sleep, that part where you have rapid eye movement. But then that becomes fragmented too. So even that stage doesn't work as effectively as it should. REM sleep is when all your emotion experiences are processed. And deep sleep is when your brain really clears the decks. It's the part where your body starts to heal and restore and rest. If deep sleep is reduced and REM sleep becomes fragmented, then your mental filing system doesn't work properly. So the next day, you don't come back to a tidy desk. You're coming back to yesterday's paperwork, still spread everywhere, and a stress bucket that's partially full. People often start by responding with getting a bigger bucket. They learn to carry more load. They balance more pressure. But eventually, you drop the bucket. And that's when you move from normal stress responses to chronic stress. So why is chronic stress such a problem? Well, our brains are wired for survival, and if the body feels under threat because demand continues to exceed our capacity to meet our needs, then our survival system, the fight, flight, or freeze, that kicks in and becomes dominant. Have you ever noticed that when you've been under pressure for too long, your memory starts to go? You lose your train of thought halfway through a conversation. You walk into a room and forget why you went there. Small things that normally wouldn't bother you suddenly feel irritating or overwhelming. This is not being weak, or this is not getting old or anything like that. This is your brain adapting to what it believes is a threatening environment. You see, your brain has plasticity, which means it can change and adapt depending on the environment that you're living in at that point. And if the brain believes life has become threatening and overwhelming, it starts to reallocate your resources towards survival. It literally starts to remake parts of your brain. The amygdala, it's a part of your brain just behind your eyes there. And that's part of the brain that acts like an alarm system. It scans for danger and helps trigger for flight, fight, or freeze when anything looks like a danger or a threat. When stress becomes chronic, that alarm system becomes stronger and more active. In simple terms, the brain becomes better at detecting what it thinks, what it imagines is danger. And at the same time, the areas that help you think more clearly, regulate emotion and make decisions, the frontal part of your brain, becomes less active, and in fact, it can even shrink over time. You are literally losing the little grey cells. And the hippocampus, which sits just behind the amygdala, it's also affected by long periods of stress and high levels of the stress hormone cortisol. So when people say, I can't think straight, my memory's terrible, or I can't concentrate, that's chronic stress. And it's the brain adapting to prolonged pressure by strengthening the systems that detect threat, reducing resources in areas that aren't immediately needed for survival. Now, I've already mentioned one common stress hormone, cortisol, but it doesn't stop there. Stress changes what's happening chemically in your body. And when the brain believes that you're under pressure, it signals the body to release stress hormones, adrenaline, noradrenaline, and cortisol. Short term, it's useful because adrenaline helps to sharpen your focus and it prepares your body to act. Cortisol mobilizes energy so you can deal with whatever challenges are in front of you. That response is another part of your fight, flight, or freeze, and it's designed to help you survive the immediate threat. The problem comes when your system ends up stuck on. You can only run on adrenaline for so long, pushing through deadlines, responsibilities, and pressure, but your body isn't designed to stay in that state indefinitely. And when cortisol remains elevated for too long, it begins to affect the body in other ways. It drives inflammation, which can affect many systems in your body. It disrupts the immune system, affects your cardiovascular health, interferes with sleep, and can contribute to brain fog, fatigue, emotional changes. And it's the changes people often notice when they've been under pressure for far too long. In other words, the system that is designed to help you deal with short bursts of challenges begins to create the problems because it never gets a chance to switch off. The stress also shows up in something all of you will know, your digestive system. Have you ever noticed how before you have something really stressful like an exam or an important job interview, your digestive system decides to play up? Butterflies, tummy cramps, loose bowels, needing to go to the loo every 5 minutes? That huge surge of demand hits your gut in one go. Now imagine you're under chronic stress. Day after day, those same demands are being put on your system. Your digestive system works best in rest and restore mode, the complete opposite to fight, flight, or freeze. But when you're under pressure, when your body thinks it's in survival mode, the blood supply to your digestive system gets diverted to your heart, to your lungs, to your muscles, so you can run away. Digestion is secondary. Acid production changes, gut motility changes. It can either become sluggish and you have problems that way, or that has the opposite effect and you need the loo every 5 minutes. And it becomes a cycle. Poor digestion means your body can't absorb the nutrients you need, the nutrients to repair, to restore, the energy you need to survive. Reduced blood flow to the bowel means waste products aren't being cleared out. It increases inflammation further, and an inflamed, undernourished body feels even more under threat, which keeps the flight, fight, or freeze system running even harder. It's like trying to run a car on an empty tank. Eventually, something breaks, which is why chronic stress is linked to indigestion, reflux, ulcers, and IBS. It isn't in your head. It's in your guts, your hormones, your immune system, and your sleep. The whole system is affected. If this is ticking boxes for you or filling in the blanks. Well, let me reassure you, it doesn't mean you're falling apart or that this is your lot. Are you imagining it? Yeah, part of you is. Your subconscious mind uses your amazing, powerful imagination to run through every possible scenario it can to keep you safe. And that is exactly what keeps the threat mode switched on for so long. Life is always going to challenge us. That's not going to change. And upgrading your stress bucket is only going to get you so far before there simply is no more give in your system. A bigger bucket is not the answer. What makes a real difference is being able to empty it before you hit the wall. Because the problem never was stress. Stress is just demand, and demand is part of life. The problem is when the load exceeds your capacity to carry it, and nobody has given you the tools to reset it. So what people are calling nervous system regulation is really just whether your system gets a chance to reset. And there are plenty of approaches that people try. Some genuinely help. Others are a little more than sticking a band-aid on things. They make the bucket slightly more manageable for a while without actually ever helping you to empty it. Hypnotherapy is different. It's a proven method for resetting your load, working directly with part of your mind that's been driving this whole system, driving it too hard for too long, just to try and keep you safe, but not quite managing to get there. And in the next video, I'll guide you through a gentle hypnotherapy session that's going to help you to exactly do that, to quieten your mind, to ease your body out of the constant state of alert, and find a healthier way to carry out the demands of life, to meet the demands without exceeding your capacity. So when you're ready, and it is safe to do so, find somewhere comfortable and watch video 2.